All right, buckle up. We're embarking on a journey this time, a bit of a wild ride, spanning Mammoth bones in the East River, altered states of consciousness, biblical interpretations, and a view into the world of psychedelics. Oh yes, we're going there. We're reacting to a conversation between Joe Rogan and Rick Strassman. But trust me, there's a method to this madness. By the end, you'll see how these seemingly random topics connect. We're going to uncover those hidden connections, those threads that weave this whole tapestry of knowledge and insight. Let's start with a story that sounds straight out of a mystery novel. John Reeves, an Alaskan gold miner, owns a place called the Boneyard. At first glance, it might seem like just another place for fossils, but it's way more than that. Reeves uses high-pressure hoses, similar to those used for gold mining, to uncover these incredibly preserved ancient bones, mammoth tusks, bison skeletons. A fascinating glimpse into prehistory. The permafrost in Alaska acts like a time capsule, preserving these amazing remnants of the past. Here's where it gets weird. Reeves also dives in the East River, right here in New York City, to find more mammoth and bison bones. How did these Ice Age giants end up in the East River? That's not exactly their natural habitat. Reeves knew exactly where to look. About a century ago, a museum dumped a bunch of these bones in the river and tried to cover it up. It makes you wonder what else is hidden beneath the surface of what we accept as history. Now let's talk about Rick Strassman. He lived in Alaska for a while and noticed something interesting about Alaskans. They seem to have a different psychology, a resilience forged by living in such an extreme environment. Imagine living in a place where, for most of the winter, you only get a couple of hours of twilight each day. It's a totally different reality, a constant challenge to the human spirit. It makes you wonder how that affects perception, outlook on life, and susceptibility to altered states of consciousness. This brings us to Strassman's groundbreaking research on DMT, an incredibly powerful psychedelic. Strassman has a theory suggesting that some cultures might be more sensitive to endogenous DMT, the DMT naturally produced in our bodies. He even linked it to the prevalence of enlightenment experiences in Buddhism. Could living in an extreme environment like Alaska, with prolonged darkness and sensory deprivation, somehow prime people for those kinds of experiences? Let's shift gears a bit and talk about something both exciting and kind of terrifying: artificial intelligence. AI is advancing so fast that it could eventually be more creative than humans. What if AI starts writing better music or painting masterpieces? It's unsettling and challenges our whole idea of what it means to be human. Let's not forget human experiences. All those emotions, struggles, and joys, they form the foundation of our creativity, something AI might never truly grasp. Although with Neuralink, Elon Musk's brain-computer interface, who knows what the future holds? Neuralink is already showing promise in treating conditions like blindness. Imagine restoring sight to someone who's been blind since birth. They could experience vision for the first time. It's wild, but also a bit unsettling. Where do we draw the line? How far do we go with merging technology with our bodies? What does it mean to be human in this age of radical enhancement? These are crucial questions we need to be asking. and the conversation is only just beginning.
Some people think that's the mark of the beast from the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the people that get the chip.
Mm-hmm. The mark of the beast. Isn't that on the forehead, or
maybe that's the best spot for it?
It's 666 is the mark of the beast.
Right.
Yeah.
But isn't that like open to interpretation? Like, what does it say in the? You've read the original one. What is the mark of the beast in the Hebrew Bible, the ancient?
Yeah. That's the Christian Bible. That's the Book of Revelation. That's the New Testament, which I have not read. Amazingly enough.
How come?
Well, I'm pretty
too busy learning ancient Hebrew.
Yeah, I have enough to study is the Hebrew Bible.
Yeah. I mean, if you were going to prophesize about the end of humanity, you'd probably prophesize about someone accepting some sort of a chip in their brain and then everybody being forced to do it, some Matrix type situation. I could see why people would see that this, and it might be just the inevitable transition from biological to cyborg that we're probably going to have to go through anyway.
Well, the end of the world will, at least according to certain traditions, is heralded by the Antichrist, and the Antichrist is the master of the lie. So I think it's interesting to kind of use that perspective as a way of seeing where the future is heading.
So the Antichrist is mass media.
It's the master of the lie.
Yeah. Mass media is the master of the lie.
Mm-hmm.
Corporate media is the master of the lie. Corporate media is the Antichrist. Corporate media leads us into wars, justifies all kinds of crazy things that we do. We take over foreign governments and install our own puppet dictators and have everybody convinced that it's a good thing.
Yeah, well, the concept of the Antichrist is very old, 2,000 years. You have Christ, you've got the Antichrist.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's a God and there's a demiurge. So it's a notion that has carried a lot of weight for a long time.
Joe Rogan didn't hold back when he called corporate media the Antichrist. He believes corporate media is all about profit and power, manipulating public opinion to serve their own interests, rather than informing the public or promoting truth. He even compared corporate media to the Sackler family, who profited massively from the opioid crisis, causing immense suffering and loss. It's a powerful analogy that makes you think about how some entities prioritize profit over people's well-being. They use their influence to shape narratives and control information. This is a reminder for all of us to be critical thinkers, to question where our news comes from, and to consider the motivations behind the messages we see every day. We need to engage in thoughtful dialogue, seek out diverse perspectives, and use our critical thinking skills to discern truth. This leads us to Rick Strassman's fascination with the Bible, specifically the book of Genesis. He approaches the text by encouraging readers to consider the events as real, even if not literally. What if we treated it as a record of actual events? What hidden wisdom might we uncover instead of just dismissing it as myth or allegory? It's about approaching these ancient texts with a fresh perspective, looking for deeper meaning and insights into the human condition. One of the stories Strassman is drawn to is the story of the Tower of Babel. It resonates with our earlier conversation about communication and how language can both unite and divide us. Speaking of ancient languages, remember those ancient Egyptian curses inscribed on statuettes of enemies. Fascinating how language has been intertwined with power throughout history. This ties into our conversation about Jerusalem, a city of immense significance for many religions, a focal point for history, spirituality, and power, all coming together. Strassman's interest in the Bible also led him to explore other texts, like those featuring Lilith. Though not found in the Bible itself, Lilith plays a significant role in later rabbinic literature. These texts offer a nuanced understanding of the stories we think we know. In Jewish folklore, Lilith is Adam's first wife, created from the same dust as him. But she refused to be subservient and demanded equality. This did not go over well, and she was cast out. Often portrayed as a powerful, independent figure, she's also associated with demonic forces. Her story raises big questions about gender roles, power dynamics, and the suppression of dissent. These questions are still relevant today. Think about how many times women have been silenced or demonized for speaking their minds and challenging the status quo. It's remarkable how stories from thousands of years ago can still resonate with our lives today. These narratives challenge us to examine our beliefs and confront uncomfortable truths. It's a deep dive, and we're just getting started. And speaking of challenging beliefs, let's dive into the fascinating ideas of John Reeves, the Alaskan bone collector. He proposed a captivating concept about time, suggesting that it's not linear, but rather a spiral where past, present, and future are all intertwined. By touching those ancient bones, he felt he was connecting with the vastness of time and the interconnectedness of all beings across millennia. These bones, remnants of creatures that roamed the earth thousands of years ago, are being unearthed and studied today, potentially influencing our understanding of the future. It's a powerful perspective that truly makes you think. Reeves also had an even crazier belief: the idea that the Earth itself is conscious, like a living, breathing being with its own awareness. This belief is shared by many indigenous cultures, which have long held the view that the Earth is a sentient entity, deserving of our respect and reverence. Even some scientists are starting to explore this idea of planetary consciousness, suggesting that complex systems like ecosystems, and perhaps even the planet as a whole, might exhibit these emergent properties of consciousness. It's a fascinating concept, similar to the Gaia hypothesis, which proposes that the Earth is a self-regulating system, a kind of superorganism. This idea challenges our very anthropocentric view of the universe and fundamentally changes our relationship with the planet and our responsibility for its well-being. It compels us to reevaluate our place in this web of life and consider the consequences of our actions on a much grander scale. Now, let's talk about those mind-bending experiments where people were given DMT and then exposed to lasers. DMT by itself is already a wild ride, but adding lasers to the mix takes it to the next level. Researchers were investigating how DMT affects visual perception, and the lasers created intricate patterns that seemed to interact with the DMT visuals, leading to complex and otherworldly experiences for the participants. How does DMT work in the brain to create these profound alterations in consciousness? It remains somewhat of a mystery, but it appears that DMT interacts with certain serotonin receptors in the brain, particularly the 5-HT2A receptor, which plays a role in perception, mood, and cognition. This interaction disrupts the normal flow of information in the brain, leading to a flood of sensory input and a breakdown of the usual boundaries between self and other. This might explain why people often report seeing entities or feeling a sense of interconnectedness with everything. Some researchers believe that DMT might even be released in the brain at birth and death, which could explain near-death experiences and reports of seeing a white light or feeling a profound sense of peace and unity. It's a compelling theory that suggests DMT might play a role in our transition into and out of this earthly existence. Now, let's take a break from the cosmic mysteries and talk about something a little more down-to-earth: trains. Joe Rogan went on a tangent about how much he dislikes air travel and how he prefers taking Amtrak instead. He even mentioned taking an Amtrak from Los Angeles to Albuquerque overnight, which does sound kind of romantic in a retro sort of way. But then he brought up a town where a train runs right through the middle of an apartment building multiple times a day, every day of the week. It's hard to believe that people could adapt to such an absurd situation. Yet there's video of people casually walking on the train tracks moments before the train comes barreling through. It's a strange example of human adaptability, albeit a bit reckless. Rogan also made a provocative statement about white people, calling them a disease due to their historical and ongoing impact on other cultures and the environment. It's important to remember that generalizations about entire groups of people are never accurate or fair. We need to avoid essentializing any group based on race or any other characteristic. It's about holding individuals accountable for their actions and working to dismantle systems of oppression, not blaming entire groups of people. We need to approach these complex issues with nuance and understanding, recognizing the diversity within any group and seeking solutions that promote justice and equality for all. Let's lighten things up a bit. Rogan and Strassman had a conversation about food, and it turns out Rogan isn't a big fan of vegetables. He mostly eats fruit and supplements with vitamins, and he admitted that he doesn't eat salads for health reasons, but simply because he enjoys the taste. We all have our food preferences, right? Rogan also has a bit of a sweet tooth, confessing his love for pretzels. Who can resist a good pretzel, especially those soft, doughy ones with a warm, salty crust? However, Rogan tries to avoid them because they make him feel terrible afterward, comparing the post-pretzel slump to coming down from MDMA. It's a relatable feeling of indulging a little too much and then regretting it later. Speaking of moderation, let's circle back to the idea of consciousness. In many spiritual traditions, achieving a state of heightened consciousness is seen as a path to enlightenment or liberation. But Rogan brought up the concept of spiritual narcissism, the tendency for some individuals to use their spiritual experiences or beliefs to elevate themselves above others, rather than fostering compassion and understanding. True spiritual growth involves humility, compassion, and a recognition of our interconnectedness with all beings. It's about recognizing that we're all on this journey together, supporting each other's growth and evolution. This ties back to our earlier discussion about psychedelics. Used wisely, they can be powerful tools for self-exploration and spiritual insight, but they can also be misused, leading to ego inflation and a distorted sense of reality. It's crucial to approach these substances with respect and caution, understanding that they're not a quick fix or a guaranteed path to enlightenment. The real work of personal and spiritual growth happens in our everyday lives, through our interactions with others, our engagement with the world, and our commitment to living with intention and integrity. It's about cultivating awareness, compassion, and a deep appreciation for the interconnectedness of all things. Circling back to Rogan's views on corporate media, he continued his critique, calling it the Antichrist and blaming it for a host of societal problems. Rogan strongly believes that corporate media is driven by profit and power, manipulating public opinion to serve its own agenda rather than informing the public honestly and promoting truth and justice. He even drew a parallel between corporate media and the Sackler family, who profited tremendously from the opioid epidemic, causing immense suffering and countless deaths. This analogy underscores how entities can prioritize profit over people's well-being, using their influence to shape narratives and control the flow of information for their own gain. It's a powerful reminder to be discerning consumers of information, to question the sources of our news, and to consider the motivations behind the messages we're constantly bombarded with. We need to engage in thoughtful dialogue, seek out diverse perspectives, and use our critical thinking skills to distinguish truth from manipulation. That brings us back to Rick Strassman's insightful perspective on the Garden of Eden story. His observation that the serpent tempted Eve with the promise of knowledge suggests that the pursuit of knowledge itself can be a double-edged sword. Some knowledge can be empowering and liberating, while other knowledge can be used for manipulation and control. This story serves as a cautionary tale about the importance of using our knowledge wisely, recognizing its potential for both good and evil. It also reminds us that true wisdom involves not just acquiring knowledge, but also cultivating compassion, empathy, and a profound understanding of the interconnectedness of all things. It's about utilizing our knowledge to benefit ourselves and others, promoting harmony and understanding rather than division and conflict. This perspective makes us think about the responsibility that comes with seeking knowledge. It's not just about gathering facts and figures. It's about understanding the implications. How do we use that knowledge? This brings us back to Strassman's work with DMT. Some people have blissful, mystical experiences with DMT, while others encounter terrifying entities. It seems that DMT amplifies whatever's already inside us, our capacity for love and wonder, but also our deepest fears and anxieties. It's as if it unlocks something within our own consciousness, more than just creating hallucinations. Set and setting play a huge role too. The mindset you bring into it, the environment you're in, all that can shape how DMT unfolds for you. The context is crucial. It's not just about the substance itself. This ties into the idea of culture shaping our experiences. Just as Alaskans have adapted to their extreme environment, different cultures have their own ways of understanding and navigating altered states of consciousness. For example, shamanic traditions use rituals and practices to guide psychedelic journeys, making it a safer and more meaningful experience. These cultures recognize that psychedelics are powerful tools, not just recreational drugs, but gateways to other realms of consciousness. They can offer profound insights and even healing, but they also carry risks if you're not careful. This concept reminds us of those ancient texts where language could be used for healing or harm, depending on the intention behind it. The ancient Egyptians believed that words held power, and we need to recognize that power in our own thoughts and intentions, especially when venturing into altered states. This brings us back to Lilith, who was demonized for challenging the established order. It's a reminder that those in power often use fear and manipulation to maintain control, labeling anyone who questions the status quo as dangerous or deviant. But her story also has a message of empowerment. She refused to be subservient, even if it meant being cast out, reminding us that we have the power to choose our own path, even if it means going against the grain. Sometimes those are the most transformative journeys. Breaking free from limiting beliefs and embracing our true selves, even if it means facing challenges and uncertainties along the way. As we wrap up this deep dive, it's amazing to see how interconnected everything is. From mammoth bones and DMT to biblical interpretations, and even the concept of the Antichrist. The main takeaway is that there's always more to learn, more layers to uncover. The journey of learning and exploring is ongoing, with always something new to discover and a different angle to consider, a deeper understanding to strive for. So, as we leave you with this final thought, remember to embrace the mystery. Question those narratives. Keep digging for those hidden connections. You never know what incredible discoveries await you on your own deep dives. Even if it feels like you're going down a rabbit hole, you never know what treasures you might find at the bottom. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep surfing the waves of life with a Zen mindset.